Welcome to ACN, the Liberation TV of Ambazonia. Ambazonia Defense Forces, the vanguards of the Ambazonia War of Independence.
I told you before, when the time comes, they will come to us. And I remind you, I know my national security advisor always reminds me I shouldn't utter certain words, but I say them so you don't forget. Because I know they are trying to take me down. But even if I'm not around, don't forget. You don't owe them child support. Don't forget the crimes they've committed against us. We, this generation, will defeat Cameroon in battle. They said they could fight. They said they had trained bees. They had United States provided tanks and warplanes. We want them to fight. We invite them to fight. We invite them to fight. Where them they? Where them they? Watana wata. Ambazonians, don't be fooled. They fooled us before, not this generation. This is the never again generation that has decided to write the last chapter of its own history, to pen down the story of General Ivo, the bravery of our patriots who fought in trenches with den guns. The stakes are high. Negotiations is not to give you freedom. It's to maintain the status quo. To maintain stability for international exploitation and conspiracy against our own humanity. They aren't coming to talk for the liberation of our detainees, our prisoners of war. They come like Trojan horses with bayonets to murder our patriots volunteers. My fellow people, the kind of country we want to leave to the next generation is one where people find peace and happiness and hope. Where people can laugh even in poverty. They can transform their own society to reflect the kind of society they want to build. We want to build a country where he can walk in and feel at home. Where she can walk in and feel at home. We want to build a country where if you are a hairdresser, you take pride in creating beauty. If you are a farmer, you are happy producing cassava, being able to turn it into gari and find the market 6,000 kilometers away. We want to build a country where we can have a curriculum of education that empowers our people to capture the creative energy of sunlight and power every home. We want to make sure you can capture the rain of the rainy season and make sure you can still eat fresh fruit in the dry season. We want to build a country where you can find peace, you can unite your body and your soul and have hope even in poverty. We want to build a country for all of you. So when your final days shall come and you bequeath to the next generation something better than was given to you. That's why you've taken time off to come to this hall today. You're the finest, you're the bravest, You are the warriors of our war of independence. Don't let anyone fool you. I stand between you and your colonizers, and I'll make sure you're going to have your freedom. Freedom is a universal currency. It's valid through time and space. And as a human being, you should take pride in it. I thank you for your sacrifices, for your dedication. I thank you for the investment you've made in the last years, for having hope in this leadership. You are the grassroots. You must have taken note, as he said, you are the vanguard of our revolution. If you look through this hall, we have Ambazonians, professors and doctors in South Africa. You will find very few of them around. You will decide who will govern you. All those in exile must think like entrepreneurs, opportunity creators, for those battling in the bushes, for those fighting on a daily basis. I ask all of you to recommit. In the next few months, we can write Cameroon's obituary in our homeland. Thank you, fellow Ambazonians. Thank you, South Africans, for coming here tonight. God bless you all, and God protect Ambazonia.
The CIC. Good evening, my fellow Ambazonians. Una good evening for all our big papa them and our big mommy them, for all our Ambazonian picking them, for all Ambazonians who they be scattered all across the globe. No matter place where they today, we don't come for cancer Lodona. This evening, we will get one of the most important conversation with the leader of our war of independence, Dr. Ayaba Cho. Today, the talk for today, it go over plenty. The talk for today, it be very important. The talk for today, we go talk all the things the way we want, we wanna get them for our heart. We go ask the question them, whether the world wanna. We go also the talk about the Congo we dey for outside day. Because plenty people don't send plenty question about a lot of the Congo, a lot of the news where they for outside day. We go to ask all kind of questions today. So the story for today, now forgive the Ambazonian people them the clarity from the leader in own position, from the organization, for an assessment of which are things that they go. At the end of it, we'll come here today now for make sure say the leader he launch the stabilization force phase 2. So why would he talk about all these things and for address what people their concerns and may they get answers and present the people their question them to the leader? We therefore here today now for launch the phase 2 of the stabilization force. So all man, una welcome as they talk, the soldier they talk. Una place day, una cafe day, as Mama Woli they talk. Shake no day. Today, now the biggest day in terms of conversation with the leader. So una welcome all man. Good evening, Mr. President.
Good evening, sir.
How you doing?
Well, I can't complain. I'm doing good, and I hope same with you.
It's great to see you since the last time we had an outing.
Yes, yes. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be here.
All right, it's great to have you. And my fellow Ambazonians, Una Sabi say we will move the conversation now for Oyibo people their own talk so that we'll get the president, make it the leader for War of Independence, the president for Governing Council of Ambazonia, make it talk for the people, then for the way, if you really talk for the way the talk will come out, fine, we all we go really like them. So when I sabi say not been a man for PG University, clean small, and still learner. So welcome, sir. Let's get started. There is a lot going on social media. About 2 days ago, the Chris Anu of the Peaks IG made some severe accusations on your person. It's a lot of things that have been said about you. Ambazonians are worried. We'll receive more than 50 questions if you're actually going to talk about this. Or is this one of those things where you don't want to talk about it? The egg of sea people don't want to talk about it. They don't want to get into this infighting stuff. What is this all about? So we've received a lot of questions, and that is the dominant questions in the minds of Ambazonians about these accusations that Chris Anu of the Peak IG has levied on your person. So let me take you through some of those. Number one, he said they have enough evidence from official sources that the ADF is part of La République du Cameroon and it's a proxy forces of the Cameroon military. That's the first one. What did you make of this statement?
You want me to respond to Mr. Ano?
This is the dominant question Ambazonians are asking.
I think we should commit him in our prayers and remain focused on the liberation of our homeland.
That is not the only question. That's not the only allegation against you. Is that you've been to La République du Cameroon just a week ago? You made 2 trips to La République du Cameroon recently, and it's not just you. You and Sheikh Kavi and others have made 2 trips to La République du Cameroon. He also said that the guns that the ADF have in their possession are material supplied to you by Cameroon military to use against what he claims to be their restoration forces, and that the ADF is roaming across the territory in order to gather intelligence of what he claimed to be intelligence of the whereabouts of their restoration forces so that they can pass this information on to the Cameroon military for the Cameroon military to destroy what he claims is their restoration forces. He also said that you have been funded by the Cameroon colonial government. That all the money you use to do whatever you're doing, it's coming from La République du Cameroon and the Biya government. It's your key partner, it's your top donor, and you've had secret meetings with them just recently. So this is something that I think that Ambazonian people want to hear from you.
Mr. P.S., Ambazonia should commit that gentleman in their prayers. He needs help. The second issue is the day Ambazonians will hear I'm in the territory, know that they will be fighting non-stop for 2 months. They will know when I'm in there. When I was there, they said I was not there. Evidence didn't hide. There were videos. You see, I don't have time for talkatives. And I think these discussions are deliberately injected, to play with the mindset of our people. You see, we don't play in the same league. We don't. And I think that the mandate given me by the Ambazonian Governing Council and the support provided by the Ambazonian people manifests itself in the activities of the Ambazonian Defense Forces on the ground and our diplomatic activities. In the struggle for our liberation, there will be the constant ups and downs of people scared of losing an entitlement. We are damn focused like a laser on the enemy that massacres and has usurped our land for the past 60 years. Any deviation will be a tactical mistake. There were more infiltrators and enablers in the struggle for the Algerian independence than there are in Ambazonia. History will take care of Mr. Anu, and I ask Ambazonians to commit him in their prayers. He needs help. Let's focus on the job of our business. Our people continue to invest in their liberation. They know how we started with din guns, with knives, and through their dedication and sacrifices, we upgraded. We keep injecting the materials. We are not even one third way to where we are supposed to be. And I want to let Ambazonians understand that even Cameroon, who thought they were superpowers, were surprised by the daredevil activities of our fighters at the onset of this struggle. They thought General Ivo came from Mars. The truth about us, I'm not talking only Ambazonians, the most intelligent students, we always thought they had some juju, some medicine from somewhere. It was hard work. They studied, they burnt the night candle, they read the books. If you work hard, you're going to succeed. And we have been working extremely very hard, telling the truth to our people about what we need, being accountable, receiving the support from our people and investing that support in providing for our fighters the materials they need. On a daily basis, we do that. We have done that since morning. We will do that tomorrow until each Ambazonian above the age of 18 is armed to the teeth to face the two enemies that surround us, Nigeria and Cameroon. Until then, I think we should not waste any time for people who are afraid, who are desperate, who have virtually nothing to offer, than try to divide our people. I call on all forces on ground zero to continue their collaboration. They met yesterday in a wonderful meeting, and I was briefed today. They are coming together to work to make sure that the division that were instilled deliberately to divide us and then blame others is eliminated. We are on our pathway to a liberated and controlled country, and I ask our people not to be distracted.
That's it. You have to say about all these allegations. You don't want to address them.
That's all I can say to you. Amazonians should be focused. Anybody who is desperate needs to check in a psychiatric hospital.
There's more to that. Let me move to the second part of those allegations. That last Sunday, on March the 7th, you and members of your organization, you met in a meeting, and you had a meeting, and in that meeting, the agenda of the meeting was to come up with strategies to to come up with strategies in which you said, and you were the chairperson of the meeting, you said the ABC TV, Chris Anu, and Samuel Sako are your key enemies, and you ask those in the meeting to help you come up with methods and means to destroy them.
Mr. PS, can we move on, please, to more important issues, please?
All right, let's move on to other important issues. When you raise the big, when you launch the stabilization force in October, 2 weeks later, the people of IG led by Comrade Yerima, also launched the Big Rubber Gun Project. When you heard of the Big Rubber Gun Project, what did you make of it?
The IGK is an independent group, and they have the right to launch, their project. And I think we should respect that. I understand the complaints, and I will address those things. Now, we have to be careful. You know, sometimes we say, they don't have forces on the ground, and if they want to mobilize their funds for their forces, we don't have a right to complain. I think that's clear. As a political leader, I will wish, and I have communicated that to them. The Amazonian Defense Forces is a force for the liberation of homeland, and I would really appreciate if all of us focus in investing in the Amazonian Defense Forces to ensure that we can speed up the liberation. But when you ask others to invest in a force that is under your absolute control, what are you offering? And I have made offers like the ADF's mandate is gonna definitely end on liberation, and we will together as a people during the period of transition establish transitional institutions that brings everybody together, everyone together, to look at the kinds of economic system, the political system that we are going to put in place, the nature of our military, and then we hand over those institutions to Ambazonians to now elect their members of parliament within their constituencies. Those members of parliament will sit in parliament. The majority party will elect the prime minister of the country. I'm definitely very confident that the fear of some that the Amazonian Defense Forces will be used, to install unilaterally a president does not hold true, especially when we consider the nature of our political system. The president is just a nominal figure, the head of government, and the sole instrument of policy formulation and implementation will be the prime minister, elected from parliament by duly elected parliamentarians elected from their constituency. So that is what I offer. I think it is difficult to launch any new defense initiative 4 years into our war. And my wish will be that we all focus and have some political compromises, focus on the Amazonian Defense Forces, rally the minimal resources that we have to provide it with what it's needed, enlarge and strengthen it, and make sure it has, what it's required to liberate the homeland. While we can sit at leadership to hash out some simple political compromises during the phase of transition and move forward as quickly as possible.
Okay, we will be talking about those political compromises. I have some questions for you that have been submitted by the public. Now, let me ask you this. Recently, about 2 weeks ago, there was an audio that was sent out by Jumba Akuro, in which he stated that the leaders held a meeting. Were you invited to that meeting? And if so, why did you not participate?
Yes, I held discussions with some of the organizers, I think a year ago, when they were still doing the planning. But I have said repeatedly that we should stop calling anyone who creates a two-persons group who comes on Facebook and talk about the Amazonian struggle a leader of this endeavor. When we do that, we proliferate, the space with everyone. No, everyone is important, but not everyone is a leader. Not because you scream a lot, not because you abuse and attack, that makes you a leader. And they are constituted groups within our struggle. You have the Amazonian Governing Council that is driving the liberation agenda. You have the IG that came about through the process of hijacking the Skakov initiative. Those are the two principal groups. And I think if we focus on these two principal groups, it will enhance the possibility of collaboration and a more resource liberation agenda that can quicken, Cameroon's demise. I will not, I traveled to Nigeria. I met Siseko. I traveled to the United States. I met Dr. Sako. I met Dr. Kwanga. I met Bo. I met John. I met all of them. It has never worked. Why the so-called bringing leaders together has not worked is because we bring in journalists, we bring in communicators, we bring in political activists in the name of leaders, and we are not able to agree on anything. Secondly, you have some of these groups are constituted under Dr. Sako in ARC, and he should speak for them. He should represent their interest. So I will not be wasting any more time at a particular time when I think we need focus and concentration in enhancing our strategy on the ground. I have made it clear I am open for discussions with the IG on the kinds of compromises which I talked about initially for us to move forward. But it will be a huge distraction and a waste of time and resources, as it has happened in the past 4 years, to always bring together anybody. Bring together anybody and begin some propaganda, begin some deviation, distraction from the core issues that are required. You wouldn't hear these gentlemen, most of them are men, come into a room and emerge, not with a press release, but with $100,000 to buy more arms for our forces at a time when La Republique is increasing its assault on the ground. So I think Amazonians have recognized those who lead them, and I think they should be focused during the period of transition. Everyone who has been, doing work within constituted groups, whether social media bloggers, prisoners of war, activists, will be constituted in the transitional authority to make sure that we build the systems that will be implanted for the period of governance. And anyone who wants to lead, who wants to become a politician, will present themselves in their constituency to be elected into parliament. And if they have the majority seat in parliament, they can become the head of government.
All right. So, with that in mind, there is also a new group that was formed in 2020 called the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation. Do you consider the coalition, the CDN, as a new political bloc within the Amazonian War of Independence, or how would you define what they do or the significance of what they do in terms of Amazonian War of Independence?
It's not in my powers to qualify or quantify or describe who groups are. Their charter, their bylaws defines who they are and explain their activities carefully. In terms of what the coalition is doing, is doing great. He's been doing a lot of targeted diplomacy. He's been involved in very serious diplomatic work. All what they are doing, we have also been and are still doing those things. And I think that um, what is critical, and I think with respect to your question, is this: the Amazonian Governing Council and others who are the main bodies, representing the aspirations of our people, will be able to constitute a team of seasoned negotiators, including, members of the coalition who will report to the leaders. That should be made absolutely clear. I know in this struggle, you know, you go on the social media, you're reading all sort of stuff. You see one time Mr. Dr. Fontaine comes up, he's setting up something. You see, one time Dr. Makongo comes up, and everyone is jittering. This is what should be clear. None of these people will be negotiating on behalf of Ambazonia except duly mandated by the established groups. That one Ambazonians should understand. What they are doing is what we call lobbying. They are doing good work. They will continue to lobby. They can lobby for groups. They can lobby on behalf of themselves. They can lobby on behalf of Ambazonians as a nation. But when it comes to the delegation of power, it will be done by the established groups. And because negotiations or negotiators, receive mandate from established groups and discuss to achieve the objectives for which those groups were established, which is independence. These groups are subject to public scrutiny to make sure their objective is in line with that of the Amazonian people. And so no one will speak for us who is not clear on their objectives and whose position is not very clear to be that for independence. So we should applaud all those who are doing this lobbying. They are visible because they are not actors in the struggle. When we do diplomacy, it cannot be visible because if that is the case, Yaoundé will accuse those people of legitimizing the leadership, and that's troubling. But non-actors in the conflict can do lobbying and do that publicly. But we are engaged in far-reaching diplomatic initiatives, far bigger diplomatic initiatives, also sometimes liaising with the efforts that they are putting in place. And what we should be expecting is that whatever they are doing, they should liaise with the leadership and make sure we are all on the same page. And that is very critical going forward.
I want to ask you this question that that was submitted to us from Ground Zero, and they ask, "What is your relationship with Ayok Tabe? What is the state of your collaboration with Ayok Tabe, if any?" And the follow-up question to that is: the collaboration just a symbol, or it has any substance? That's from Ground Zero.
My relationship with Siseko is good. Is very good. I don't want to talk much. I know good things are not really appreciated. We have a very close, you know, we have a very close relationship. Yes, yes.
It's okay.
We,
Ambazonia also sometimes they do appreciate good things, so it's okay to talk about positive good things.
you see, my relationship with him is very strategic. It's very strategic, and it's good. It's healthy. I'll leave it to that. The substantive part of it, will be subject to background scrutiny.
All right. Recently, just a few days ago, the Canadian House of Commons gave the Ambazonian people an extraordinary resolution that actually favors the Ambazonian people. We think it's one of the strongest, even more stronger than what came out of the U.S. Senate. You saw the briefing in the Canadian House of Commons now with the publication of the new resolution. Were you happy hearing that from the Canadian, reading about that resolution from the Canadian Parliament? Were you excited? Were you hopeful when you read that or saw that or heard that? What did you make of it in terms of the Ambazonian achievement in targeted diplomacy?
The first thing I thought is how do we get this resolution implemented?
Okay.
That was the first thing I thought, because resolutions are expression of desires, and unless they are implemented, they remain useless pieces of papers. And so, but it's as you have said, it's a powerful shift in emphasis, and I really want to thank all those who have been working extremely very hard. You have Comrade Effie, you have the CDN, you have others like Dr. John Fominia, who made a compelling case there. I'm really grateful for their effort, and we should applaud them. I know we may applaud the Canadians, but you must ask who are those who made this happen. There's
Okay.
some of the unsung heroes, and we should be very grateful. A lot is going on. I said in a couple of months ago that there are a couple of things going on which Ambazonians will have to take note. Cameroon has shown itself as an unwilling and incapable, you know, member of the international community who acts with reckless impunity in total disregard of the international norms that governs the international system. It has shown itself as a country that can massacre and that can cause the rape of our women and shot, buried people in mass graves, and has gotten away with these crimes for the past 60 years. And I have repeatedly said that our victory over Cameroon is not going to simply be determined by our determination and strength, but by the same old time tested mistakes that arrogant bullies, commit in times of strifes like this. And I think we are on the right step. Remember, when I talked about international contenderhood, when I talked about the recognition of not only the substantive issues that define the Amazonian struggle, but the different actors that are part of the Amazonian struggle. We have seen all of these things come to pass. Now we are at a stage where the international community is looking for a loophole to hold Cameroon accountable. It begins like with initiatives like the U.S. Foreign Affairs Senate resolution. It comes with calling for fact-finding mission, and that should call us for more action. I know Amazonians, any little hope, pushes them to sit on their laurels. In the past days, I've had discussions with Amazonians across Canada, and I'm calling on our AGOVC mission in Canada. I'm calling on Scroll, I think one of the biggest Amazonian group in Canada. So you people should work together and make sure that you can force the executive to implement the spirit to the letter and the objective of this resolution. As I said in my written statement, the biggest general that oversaw, the UN peacekeeping mission in Rwanda during the genocide period was General Delay, a Canadian, who watched helplessly as people were massacred, and he came to write a best-selling book indicting the international system for their lukewarmness. His critique, gave rise to the responsibility to protect initiative that we have called for its implementation within the context of the Amazonia Cameroon conflict. And I think Canada taking this bold step in line with the US resolution, and specifically asking the Canadian government to build a bigger coalition to make sure that they can hold Cameroon accountable, is welcome news. We are increasing our net in terms of targeted diplomacy to build confidence in other countries that are, you know, have been sitting behind, including countries within the continent of Africa, to make sure they see this issue not as an Amazonian issue, but as General Dele wrote in his book, Shake Hands with the Devil, an issue about humanity. It's critical because it might simply be the strives and struggles of some black people 6,000 miles away that doesn't concern anyone. But in the era of globalization, what affects anyone anywhere has implications of everyone somewhere. And we want to make a compelling case. And I ask Amazonians across the globe in different countries to take that resolution and do some personal diplomatic initiatives with their various constituencies, with their members of parliament, with their governors, to make sure that they join this fledgling coalition to hold Cameroon accountable for crimes against humanity, war crimes, the crime of aggression, and systematic incarceration under difficult circumstances of our people. So, in a nutshell, it is a first good step, but we are looking forward to making sure that the spirit to the letter of that resolution is implemented. We also have read, a statement from, I think, the chair of the Foreign Affairs of the US welcoming the Canadian stuff. We also knew that based on the US resolution, discussions took place in Oxford. The statements were made in the Canadian Parliament. Member of Parliament Hoffman in the German Parliament also made a statement. The Germans are a critical angle. I wouldn't go detailing into that, but we are walking that angle consciously. But like what the first Secretary General of the OAU told the Eritreans, we must be conscious that Cameroon has decided that the military option, that committing more massacres, using more monies to bribe enablers and infiltrators, is its only pathway to ensuring the continuous enslavement and colonization of our people. That is its preferred option. And international law becomes silent, bold and good initiatives and resolutions become redundant in the face of the abject determination of a party in a conflict to prosecute that conflict with utmost determination using arms. That is why we will welcome these resolutions, but with the utmost determination to assert our independence using force.
Assert the independence using force. Last month, you commissioned the elite forces within Amazonian Defense Forces called Akamatsu. You commissioned them. They've done a great work. The ground is more stable. People are more hopeful. The ground is more confident. Today, you want to talk to the Amazonian people about the second phase, the expansion of that force. What do you envision? Why is it a must now? Why is it critical? Why are you bent so much on the philosophy of armed resistance than anything else?
First, I really want to thank the War Council, the great men and women within the War Council who work extremely very hard. Especially, you have the Deaf Chair who leads the War Council, and the Mandelas, the missions of the Gulf Seas, our great mothers in the United States and dads, Amazonians in general, in the face of all this intoxication and deliberate injection of confusion, you've been able to continuously believe in the strategy, in the leadership, and in the objective. It is not our words that really count. What we show matters. And what you've seen is just a microcosm of the big picture. At each stage of our war of liberation, We have analyzed our domestic realities. We have looked carefully on the actions of the enemy. We have looked at precedents in terms of how did the Eritreans do it? How did the East Timorese do it? And we've learned from those examples why did the Tamils in Sri Lanka fail? Why was there chaos after the independence of South Sudan? And we have phrased words, determine actions to highlight problems, and then we find solutions. So when we talk about stabilization and you look at South Sudan, you see destabilization. And so we want to project, a free Ambazonia that is stable, and it's a hub for international investment for the creation of wealth and opportunities for our people. For after all, that's the main reason why we fight. Now, in our last cabinet meeting, the defense chair presented a careful plan on how we take this struggle forward.
Okay.
Ambazonians have to be reminded that the block by block strategy was a spread out strategy for both us and the enemy. Spread the enemy thin, knock them off, hand over responsibility for the defense to each block, a sense of ownership, a sense of pride. When boys fight in cassava farms, they fight in Lonesome, or they fight in Gomogam, they have a sense of ownership in the defense of their community. It spreads the
Yes.
enemy thin, makes them an easy target for total annihilation. We then realized that the block by block was also exploited by individuals out here to create the concept of my boys on the ground, where you could send a couple of hundreds of dollars and you claim to be running a defense group. That created some problems in the long run because these persons were incapable of sustaining the activities of those forces. Those forces became weaker, some became instrumentalized to be acting in a way inconsistent with the stabilization plan and the protection of our people. And we realized that one of the most important components in our liberation strategy is the relationship between our fighters and our population. Keeping our population always excited about the struggle, its objectives, and the strategies we put in place is central for long-term sustenance.
For
And
sure.
we determine if we do not institute a stabilizing force that is able to project authority on the ground, give confidence to the peripheral forces still fighting in the blocks, able to defend them and back them up, project confidence at the level of the international community to see us as a system that can provide stability and a space that cannot be taken over, take over the ungovernable spaces created by the defeat of La République du Cameroon. We will neither get recognition nor long-term support from our people. And that's why we launched, the stabilization initiative to mobilize 500,000 US dollars to begin to train, equip, and project a force for the Amazonian people that commands respect, give confidence to our people, make us respected beyond our own shores. We worked extremely very hard. Our generals worked very hard. We built a force that brought in fighters from Lebialem, brought in Christians, brought in Muslims, men and women to show, the cosmopolitan nature of the Amazonian society. Our differences, we can definitely really fight together, die together, and head to Boya together. And we have successfully established the force. What the force is doing is remarkable. It's not there yet. And sometimes while I see you people on Facebook and social media celebrating, I think we are not there yet. We aren't there yet. Yes. And I think we are moving into phase two.
Okay.
Expand and consolidate. Expand and consolidate. My vision is this. By October 1, we have a force that can determine the day a La Republique soldier lives or dies. Now, we can engage in surgical search and extract operations within urban areas. We can marshal our forces across rural areas. We can establish perimeters. They are weak perimeters. If we strengthen in terms of numbers, quality in terms of training, more sophisticated weapons and high caliber weapons, and increase our ability to pop out La Republique out of their armored cars. All the efforts of the US resolution, the Canadian resolution, will be consolidated. If we do not strengthen constantly and demonstrate our ability to sustain the resistance, it will weaken the strength of those who bat for us outside. And I think we are in the perfect moment in our struggle to be able to strengthen our men and women on the ground, focus like never before to do that. It will make 2021 a year to remember in the history of our struggle.
So, if we understand you clearly, how strong Ground Zero is determines the response of the international system. Whether US Senate resolution is implemented or not, whether the Canadian House of Commons resolution is implemented or not, is dependent upon what the Amazonian people do to show their determination to project power on the ground. Is that correct?
There is one dialogue I read in, and I'm not a student of history, but in my research, what I call the Melian dialogue. You know, it is critical to determine how the international system works. Power is the singular monarch as far as the international system is concerned. No matter 1 million Amazonians die, you know, it's not a big issue. The world is not concerned uh, today because there are a million IDPs, hundreds of thousands of refugees. The projection of Amazonia today is single-handedly in the hands of our forces. The Canadian resolution will be put in the dustbin in the next 24 hours if La Republique projects power on the ground and shows that it has defeated Amazonia. Remember, the Tamil Tigers control 3/4 of the Sinhalese area within Sri Lanka. Their headquarters was almost here in Oslo. They were powerful. They held peace talks here in Oslo. The day the Sri Lankan army marshaled its forces, took over the Tamil headquarters, captured their top generals, and killed their main commander, every diplomatic initiative vanished up till today. The thousands of people that were killed was now referred to the United Nations Human Rights Council for adjudication. From the beginning of our struggle, based on my experience for more than 30 years, Yaoundé does not listen to anybody. They believe in Kutaba, they believe in Manao Bay. The only reason we are still around today is because we matched them method for method and ideal for ideal. And in both fronts, we humiliated them. In terms of our ideals, we proved the world as the first democracy in the continent. We've established a better system than that exists in Cameroon. We've shown in our diplomatic outings our ability for tolerance, compromise, tolerating Cameroonians despite their impunity, tolerating Nigerians despite renditioning our own leaders back into their jails, compromising on key issues with international institutions on the pathway to bringing justice to our people. We have demonstrated in terms of our method that we can dismantle, their checkpoints, we can eliminate their administrators, we can ship them into armor cars, we can capture them. We have outsmarted them in both front. Now, can we maintain that momentum? I don't know if you are frozen, PS.
And I command two forces in this. Navisia on location XXL on Navisiam. Then I command two forces in this. Navisiam Ambazonia people. Now the army in this way they on ground zero. Finally ground zero. We don't finally get the army way. We control ground zero. Now I command two forces in this. General big number and not be easy. When I got you one get power. A general big number at least. What I crochet boys them no easy. When I got. I vis sur this side, c'est la ramson de Kuti. C'est la ramson de Kuti. Na ida so, we just want to organize this today, the 6th January 2021. This is the beginning of this. Na ida bakona so. Na this side in front, na the battle in that.
As you can see, Commandant Blaise is doing, after sport, they are doing crawling, tactical crawling on the ground. He's trying to give the children tactical crawling. How they can crawl with their gun while we are on attack, while on ambush. Arms are going down.
War na material. War na material. That's war. Ambazonia will pray for this boy that they don't independent of this country. Ambazonia. War na material. War na material. War na material. See? War na material. War na material. Have you see? War na material. Have you see? Have you see? Have you read the book? Ambazonia Defense Force. Have you see? We shine today so that because of the ego, see the effort. We try for be our.
Sorry for the technical difficulties. I didn't know that my computer was frozen and I was kicked out of the system. I'm happy to be back, Mr. President. Thank you for your clarity and the audience are pretty excited about what you were saying about the connection between the strength of ground zero and the response of the international system. So why is it important for the Amazonian people to stretch themselves and consider this moment as a defining moment to assert the freedom of Amazonia by expanding the stabilization force?
Everything is in our favor.
Okay.
Everything is in our favor. If you know our background, if you know where we come from, you see, within the context of the continent, in terms of power relationship, in terms of wealth, we are nobody. Amazonians are virtually nobody. But if you look at where we are today and compare that to other struggles, and then you will really say, there is God. I don't sometimes I doubt if it is simply by our strength. Things happen. You cannot explain. This is a country that has been so violent. I mean, it has set itself as though it owns Amazonians. Even for those who ever use its passport, it is a struggle. Everything for the Amazonian within the context of Cameroon has been a struggle. To get a job, to go to the doctor, to get even a passport from them, to get an ID, to drive on your highway, to visit. It's a struggle. Amazonians are, they struggle on a daily basis to survive. We don't have renegade generals. If you go into Nigeria, you have angry generals who are wealthy. We don't have angry businessmen who are multimillionaires. We don't have former ministers who are so angry about what the system has done to us, whom you say are backing Amazonians. We don't have any of those things. The Eritrean struggle, Eritrean leaders were having meetings with the Egyptian president. Other struggles had backing from states. We have none. We are not in the jungle like the FARC rebels in Colombia. We are in urban areas. We are controlling territories. We are running community schools. We re-establish the Amazonianness. That sense where you could see the kids sing the anthem. A diplomat told me when he listened to our anthem, it felt touching. And he asked, who did this? Who was inspired to do this? I never even knew. Somebody was
Wow.
telling me about our own anthem. Look at where we are coming from, who we are, and where we are. You will think it's a miracle in 4 years. And it is judicious for us not to make the mistakes of the Funchas, not to make the mistakes of the John Frondis, who wielded a lot of power. The Funchas and the Endelis could walk out of the eastern bloc of Nigeria, set up office in Boya, and allowed themselves to be outsmarted and outmaneuvered by a Fulani man because they failed to establish our force to defend the territorial integrity of our homeland. The same year that Frondi won an election, a few years later, the opposition leader in Madagascar won an election. The president of Madagascar stole that election. He cut the country into two, established a force to defend his own part, proclaim himself the president. While Frondi was being locked up by the loser in the house. We have come thus far. I also enjoy politics. I like debates. But it doesn't give you freedom. It doesn't give you independence. Only force. Only force. and we apply it proportionately. As you asked in your question, why my dogged determination on arms and stuff? It's not to invade La Republic and take it over. If you have been in a neighborhood where everyone is armed and they decide when you live or die, whether you have, any factor of production or not, you better be ready. They will be stupid if a leader leads a liberation struggle and does not prescribe the required medication to the people. I am clear, nothing other than establishing a force that sends a message even without firing a shot to both our enemies. And we are there. I'm so confident that if Ambazonians focus on strengthening the Ambazonian Defense Forces and its sister forces, we will enter the phase of transition, concluding through outright military victory, like Kagame did in Rwanda, or as even the Eritreans did, and then negotiating how much Cameroon owes us. With enough force, we can roll into Mbuda and take it over and hold it until all those murdered are accountable for. How much they owe the families whose kids have been bludgeoned, how much they owe us for 60 years of thuggery, molestation, and arrogance. With the force, you can do that. With the force, you can protect your borders after independence. One of the strategies of those you defeat in times of liberation is to destabilize. Deliberately to destabilize your new country so that there is no more incentives by others in different places to fight for liberation. Destabilize so that economic prosperity cannot take root and your citizens rise up and prefer the state under occupation than freedom. Destabilize so that they can bring puppets from outside to take over your country and institute system that gives you political freedom, economic slavery. If we focus Amazonians in a very short period of time, we will transform the Canadian resolution into an act that holds Cameroon accountable. We will bring other partners to be able to support that initiative. And I think we are very close.
So, do you have a timeline in terms of your appeal to Ambazonians? Because the first phase of the stabilization force, you and your leadership and your team and the general on the ground, you accomplished that task just within 90 days. How were you able
I
to
need
do
30 days.
something like that?
I don't have 30 days. I have divided these in phases. The first
Okay.
30 days, and then I will determine by the end of the first 30 days the next period. But in the next 30 days, we need a lot of money. And I ask every Ambazonian, those who have always remained committed, those who believe in the ideal of freedom for our people, to give all what they have. We will be organizing in the coming days a massive fund generating event. We need to put more guns. We are doing training of specialist ID experts to be able to make sure we eliminate every La Republique ammo car so they can stand and fight since they declared war on the tarmac. I will be coming into your homes. I will be reaching out personally. I will be talking to your various groups. I will be talking to you in your various cities. Don't hesitate, Amazonians. You've seen phase one. Phase two is a new level, and we will show you the result. The next 30 days are crucial. If we want to transform these resolutions, these initiatives out, we must project certainty on the ground. Yesterday, we did something crucial in this struggle. Yesterday, the Foreign Secretary of the AGOVC did something crucial. We are waiting in the next few days and we will inform you people about the outcome. What we did is very central for the fate of our prisoners, for the fate of every fighter on the ground, and for a change of status of the Amazonian liberation. We are hopeful that it will return good result and I will come out personally and make the announcement to you people. For the moment,
All right.
we need every Amazonian to believe in the force. Akamanto is a powerful word. Warriors of war. That's what it means. We need to strengthen and expand. I will not go into the details because it's tactical and strategic, but the defense chair has laid it out clearly. It's superb. If you see it, it's a plan made in heaven. But we need the iron. We need the trained men to be able, to stall, frustrate, and eliminate once and for all the perpetual threat that has been hanging over our head for the last 60 years.
All right. Is there any what would you is this something, are you expecting this only from Ambazonia and the diaspora, or even Ambazonians in the territory that have the means?
Most struggles are, there are Ambazonians in the territory with the means. There are Ambazonians in exile in La Republique with the means. I call on Ambazonians everywhere you may be to consider your own theater, consider that place your own theater of operation. Eritreans who were living in Ethiopia were crucial in providing intelligence for actions, were crucial also in providing resources for the liberation. Everywhere you are, that is your theater of operation. And you should reach out to the peers who is a credible mobilizer to make sure that we can achieve some specific objectives in the next 30 days. It is specific, it is strategic. It's a kind of what I call a ring fence objective. If we achieve that, and you will not be smiling, and you'll be laughing from ear to ear, and you must have done a great service to all those who've gone before us, laid their lives for this noble objective.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Do you have any closing remarks?
Well, I just want to thank our people. I want to thank our people. And I also want to tell our communities, Amazonian communities in the homeland. Some communities have taken upon themselves to begin to collaborate with the enemy. You are committing treason. I know amongst you are enablers planted within chiefdoms and fondoms, elites who have benefited from the occupation of our country, who instrumentalize your pain, to transfer you back, to the enemy. A commander, I think in Bonge, I watched his video and I was proud, the same way I was proud when I watched Grandpa on the 1st of January. And he asked the community, if you quantify what you think the Amazonian fighters have done to you in comparative terms with what Cameroon has done against you for the past 60 years, will you have enough evidence to really sell your country? You cannot collaborate with the enemy. If there is a crisis within the community, reach out to the Deputy Defense Chief of the Amazonian Defense Forces, Capo Daniel, or reach out to his deputy, Comrade Horace. They will reach out to the forces within that community and make sure they restore order. Our aim is to build a stronger relationship between our fighters and the community. No community in a time of an existential struggle should take upon itself to enable the activities of the colonizer, provide access to the occupant, to be able to kill our forces, you are committing treason, and that community will be held responsible. I want to thank the communities that have always accommodated, fed, and provided support to our forces. This is a collective struggle. It's not a struggle only for the Ambazonian fighters. It's a struggle for our civilians. It's a struggle for our men, women, both old and young. And I appeal to you to continuously exercise your right to live in peace and in freedom in the country of your birth. Monday is the day we all, as a collective, manifest our determination to rid ourselves, from the tentacles of Cameroon. Mondays are the days we send a message to all those who laid their lives for Amazonia that we still believe in the dreams that they died for. Monday are the days we send a message to our prisoners that the deprivation of your liberty has not been in vain. Mondays are the days we send a powerful message to our fighters in the jungle to say you are not alone. I call on all of us in exile who are better placed in terms of their finances and opportunities to think about the IDPs. I know we are always focused on the liberation. Unsung heroes are also working to make sure that girls and women in the bushes are protected from the rapacious machinery of La République du Cameroon. They can have sanitary materials for themselves. Think about them, pray for them constantly. The Amazonia we strive for is for them. There will be no hope, no Amazonia without the people. In our struggle for freedom, we must always prioritize our people, the Bayam Selams, who are struggling on a daily basis to turn Jamanjama into money for rents, for hospital bills, for medication. The Okada drivers who picks up 100 amber here and there to be able to take care of a sick child. The teachers who've lost their jobs, the lawyers who are not able to practice within our own system. The suffering of our people is immense. It might get worse before it gets better, but there is one outcome which is certain now, tomorrow, and forever. Ambazonia is free. It shall never again in our lifetime be mortgaged to an arrogant occupant who views our territory as a test tube for its own experiment. It is a struggle worth fighting and dying for. We will have our quarrels, we will have blackmailers. At the end of the day, we are all God's kids who inhabit the same homeland. But for all those who mess with the objective of our strife, there will be accountability. My fellow people, the sun rose over our homeland. It is still shining. Don't let that light be extinguished. God bless you and thank you, PS, for this interview.
Thank you so much, sir. Ambazonians, when I get a good night, we'll talk for all man tomorrow.
Why does Ambazonia need a stabilization force at this stage of its war of independence? The answer to the question lies deep inside the history of why Ambazonia Governing Council was created. The following chronology of events presents a unique window into the strategy put forward by the men and women who constitute the vanguards of Ambazonia's liberation war. Back in 2013, the Ambazonian Governing Council was formed with the sole purpose to liberate Ambazonia from Cameroon's brutal and colonial oppression. Since that creation, the Ambazonia Governing Council has remained steadfast, focused, and committed to the oath. Cameroon's occupation has caused untold harm on our people through genocide, crimes against humanity, torture, forced disappearances, extrajudicial killings, the francophonization of our education and judicial system. To successfully redeem Ambazonia's freedom and win Ambazonia's independence, the Ambazonian Governing Council adopted the triad approach, which included international diplomacy, community mobilization, and self-defense as the bedrock on which to anchor Ambazonia's liberation struggle. This approach differed from all previous approaches because it recognized the right to self-defense as a fundamental right that Ambazonia must engage to fully defend Ambazonians and their homeland. Since Cameroon encroached on Ambazonia in 1961 and stationed their military, they have used military force to maintain their occupation. At a time when some Ambazonians still believe in Cameroon, the Ambazonia Governing Council, under the leadership of its pioneer leader, Dr. Ayaba Cho, launched an important and far-reaching community mobilization campaign to conscientize Ambazonians on their personality, their uniqueness, and their differences with Cameroon. Above all, the community mobilization exercises gradually empowered Ambazonians mentally and psychologically to prepare for the final phase of chasing Cameroon out of our country. At a time when Cameroon deceived Ambazonians that their military was the best in the world, the Ambazonia Governing Council commissioned a technical team to study the strengths and weaknesses of Cameroon's military. After a careful study under the leadership of Dr. Ayaba, Benedict Ka, and Sheikavi Womulam, the Ambazonian Governing Council detected the weakness and identified huge opportunities that Ambazonia will explore to effectively defend Ambazonians who have been the subject of Cameroon's armed crimes. That study gave birth to the Ambazonia Defense Forces. In the application of the community mobilization system and self-defense, the Ambazonia Governing Council adopted the block-by-block strategy, practically and as frequently articulated by the leader of the Ambazonian Governing Council. The block-by-block strategy is a military strategy akin to any guerrilla warfare. All citizens living in any community or block play a role in community mobilization and self-defense through information gathering, feeding, and engaging in combat. This approach continues the needed education necessary for constant awareness. In the ADF's block-by-block approach, our communities are our best cushion and support system. To enjoy the community's unbridled support, the ADF ensures the population knows and protects their children involved in the defense of these communities. The block-by-block knows no tribe or region. The block-by-block knows only Ambazonians. This approach enhances the relationship with the community and prevents infiltration by the occupying forces. Generally, occupying forces confuse local communities, dress like community forces, and commit terrible crimes against the population as it happened in Garbu. They have repeated these in many instances because of the confusion in our communities. This is an enemy strategy to kill the confidence between our forces and the community. Diplomatically, the Ambazonian Governing Council has engaged multiple intentional actors, including international organizations, foreign countries, and readmitted Ambazonia in the UNPO. The Ambazonian Governing Council successfully got our story deliberated in foreign assemblies, foreign ministries, international organizations, foreign universities, etc. More importantly, the Ambazonian Governing Council runs missions in most foreign countries across the globe. Our missions engage in grassroots education by educating our friends and colleagues on our story. They carry the message to their elected representatives, who in turn make decisions. While these countries continue to engage in discussions on what roles it would take to address Cameroon's genocide campaign upon our people, the Ambazonian Governing Council recognizes that it is now up to us, the brave people of Ambazonia, and our forces to defend ourselves and drive out Cameroon from our land. We promised ungovernability. We have now achieved that. Now is the time to stabilize the ground so our transitional authorities in our communities can begin the work of self-governance. Your stabilization force now has the mission of ensuring our transitional governance authorities within the territory would be able to perform their functions in a secure and peaceful environment within liberated parts of the territory. Cameroon and the international community must now come to the reality there is now a governance vacuum in Ambazonia. Because of the vacuum now created thanks to the triad of the Governing Council, the next phase of our Ambazonians' liberation war requires a large, well-trained, and well-equipped force. To respond to this timely and strategic need, the nation's stabilization force is now being commissioned. With their single most important mission to get rid of Cameroon's last forces hunkered down in the isolated bases and armored cars, while maintaining law and order and providing security through the entire territory of Ambazonia. We now bring to you the tip of the spear of our nation's defenses, the Stabilization Force. When the defense chief of the Ambazonian Governing Council signed the declaration to begin active defense operations against the occupation forces of Cameroon, one of the primary missions was to make the territory completely ungovernable. That goal has been achieved as Cameroon has completely lost all administrative control over Ambazonia. Ambazonia's stabilization force is now ready to begin the systematic and coordinated operation of flushing out Cameroon's occupation forces. Your soldiers are now ready and equipped with very lethal weaponry. They are all sworn to defend the homeland. The sovereignty of Ambazonia will forever remain non-negotiable. Ambazonia has risen.
Ambazonia Defense Forces, the vanguards of the Ambazonia War of Independence. Welcome to ACN, the Liberation TV of Ambazonia. Stay tuned on ACN TV. We will be right back.